Hello, Christ is among us. Welcome to my third video based on a guide to the domestic church put out by the Melkite Eparchy of Newton here in America. We've talked about what is a domestic church, what do Eastern Catholics believe, and now we're shifting into turning those beliefs into a lifestyle. So by virtue of our baptism, we live in two worlds. So we live here on earth, but we also have one foot in the heavenly realm, in heaven. And so it can be tricky to navigate how to live here on earth with one foot in heaven. And so the book shifts to some of these practical applications in our lives and how we can do that. But on page 14 and 15, I really like that they touched on this culture that we are drowning in of consumerism. So it's really very contemporary in the history of humanity that shopping would be a pastime. And we really have made it a hobby in our world today. So we consume goods, I think, at paces that have been unseen in times gone by. I am sometimes saddened by the amount of storage units that we have available, in our town. And to think that we have so many things, we can't even just fit them in our home. We need to buy extra space to contain all these things that we have. And I think it's not just actually objects and clothes and those kinds of things that maybe we view a little bit more frivolously, but it's also ideas and information. We really are bombarded through different venues of technology and social media with information constantly. So we're constantly consuming information, we're constantly consuming things, and really I think it's hard to resist a lot of that, myself included. And yet our Christian calling is to reject that, to live simply, and to focus on Christ, to focus on our life in Him and with Him. And so I think we need to be very aware in our world today of this mentality and make sure that we're putting checks and balances even on ourselves in these categories. So I wanted to give you a few tips on how to, in a practical way, try and resist this culture of consumerism that we're in and create this lifestyle for the kingdom that the book is talking about. And so I think one of the first things that we can do is, in a real practical way, set aside Sundays for family and for God. So Sunday, of course, we have the Divine Liturgy, and that sets the tone for your day. But make a nice family meal after Divine Liturgy. We used to always have social hour right after liturgy, and God willing, we'll go back to that soon. But in the meantime, I've become the master of the crock pot. And so we're putting together a nice big meal for our middle of the day meal after church on Sundays. Also set aside Sundays, like I said, strictly for family. We do not play sports. We do not attend sports on Sundays. We don't schedule play dates on Sundays. All of those activities are planned on other days of the week. So Sunday is truly a day of rest and a day centered on Christ. And it's also the first day of the week. So you're not only setting the tone for that day, but setting the tone for the week and setting a tone for your family that we do put God first. And we're going to take care of God and each other as this family unit. And reject the world at least one full day a week. We typically don't have school obligations that day. And if at all possible, we should try not to work on Sundays as well. Of course, that's not always possible. And all of these things I'll kind of come to at the end, that there is mercy and flexibility within this as well. The second point that I would like to make is that we really, truly do need to guard our home environment, and in a spiritual way by having our home blessed at least each year during Theophany, but also having crosses, within the home, dedicating our home to Christ, but also guarding what types of things happen within our home. what our kids and ourselves are watching on TV. If it's unacceptable in real life, should we really be watching a show that includes, this behavior? Guard our time with electronics. More and more studies are coming out about the addictive nature of electronics, especially for children, but I think for all of us. So put some time limits on those apps that you feel like are really driving time away. And how many hours a day do we spend on our phone? If we just shaved one of those hours off and use that for scripture or reading or spending time with our family or prayer, think how much our spiritual life could really grow. Our kids will resist this if they're not used to it. But I will say, in my experience, it does seem like TV and movies do tend to multiply themselves, essentially. So when I get in the habit where I'm letting the girls watch a show each day, then the next day they're really crying for one show, and then when that show's over, they're crying for even more. And so we've gotten to the point where we just don't watch TV at all during the week. That's a weekend thing, where they occasionally get to watch a movie on the weekend and enjoy that. But other than that, electronics are a treat and not a staple within the house. The third point is to build community that is like-minded. To be a Christian today really is a countercultural lifestyle. And so I would encourage you first to, if you don't have community that's supporting you and supporting the values and the life of Christ that you're seeking, to create that community yourself. Look to the families that are attending church with you. These families have the same core values as you. And I think we tend to separate people into categories. Like, these are our church friends, we see them on Sunday. And these are our school friends, we see them during the week. And these are our neighborhood friends, we see them on Saturday. And we don't often blend those lines. But if you can bring the church friends into your week, into your weekend, how much more faith-based activities are you going to find, and common faith values are you going to find, to really set your kids on the right path, and to give them friends that their parents are also asking them to do the same kinds of things that you are asking them to do. One thing that we did at our parish that was really successful and a lot of fun is we created a monthly Bible study potluck. And we did it in our home. Actually, I think having it at a home is a really great environment versus in a church building. I think it really encourages participation from all levels. I think when we show up at church, we expect Abuna or the priest to do all the talking. And I think people automatically get timid and stop sharing. And so once a month, we would get together with other families, and we met at 5 o'clock, and each family was responsible to bring either the main dish or a side or drinks. And we took turns doing all of those. So no one family was doing all of the work. All the kids came too, so nobody had to find a babysitter, which I think is huge. And then we would eat, share that meal together, and we'd send the kids outside to play. And then we would sit as adults around the dinner table and discuss Bible reading that we had committed to. We also did just some spiritual reading. So we chose different books to edify ourselves and grow closer to Christ. And we had some awesome discussions around the dinner table. Again, I know with COVID, everything is weird. And we're, if at all, getting together, just barely starting to get back together. But as you start opening yourself back up, think about building some of these types of activities in so that you have community to support you in your journey to follow Christ. The last point I want to make today is just to have mercy on yourself in this journey. I had an awesome confession this past weekend. And the short version is, I won't give you the whole version, but among many other sins, I made a big mistake this last week when it came to the kids. And the mistake that I made was I was tired and innocent in the sense that it was not a planned out thing or anything like that. But basically my mistake did put one of my kids in harm's way. And she ended up being fine. it was all fine in the end, but I feel terribly guilty about the situation. And I went to confession and spoke with the priest. And in the end, what he told me is that I need to remember that the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. And sometimes we fall short. The apostles fell asleep in the garden when Christ needed their support, when he was facing the crucifixion. And sometimes we will fall short too. I know when I met my husband and we committed to a Melkite lifestyle, I was raised Roman Catholic. It honestly took me 10 years before I really did a true Lenten fast from start to finish with all of the guidelines involved. And so there needs to be mercy. There needs to be economia, even within the home, that we do have these goals, but that it's going to take time to get there. So make baby steps, or when you fall back, just get back on the wagon. Know that this doesn't have to be a perfect process. There's no one right way to get there, but continuing to work on your domestic church, continuing to work on your lifestyle, you will see progress over time and grow closer to Christ. I'd love to hear what you are doing in your home to reject consumerism, your thoughts on that. Send me a message. I'd love to hear from you.